For more than a decade, Ayaan Hirsi Ali has been a fierce critic of Islam. And as a result, she's also been a target of constant death threats. Here's why.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali was born a Muslim in Somalia, where she saw and experienced the brutal treatment of women and girls under fundamentalist Islam. As a young woman, she escaped from an arranged marriage and sought asylum in the Netherlands, where she rose to become a member of the Dutch Parliament and an outspoken critic of Islam. Based today in Washington, D.C., Hirsi Ali continues to risk her life to expose Islam, a religion that she says subjugates Muslim women to lives of slavery, suffering, and submission. Her latest book is called Heretic: Why Islam Needs a Reformation Now. In it, she makes the powerful case that a religious reformation is the only way to end terrorism, sectarian warfare, and repression of women and minorities that each year claim thousands of lives throughout the Muslim world.
For more about the truth behind Islam, CBN founder Pat Robertson spoke with Ayaan Hirsi Ali about jihad, Sharia, and the way women are mistreated in Muslim societies.
In most Muslim countries, especially in those countries where Sharia law or Islamic law is applied, the status of women is dire. Women must have a male guardian. They should ask permission before they even leave the house. If women are raped, then they have to prove their testimony is worth half of that of the rapist. They can inherit only half of what their brother inherits. There's a great deal of violence against women. They have to go out of the house covered from head to toe, ideally with a chaperone. So they're in a permanent house arrest where Islamic law is applied. And there are now Muslim women starting their own movements and trying to fight that back. There are Saudi women who are fighting for the right to drive. There are Egyptian women who are fighting against sexual harassment. 99% of Egyptian women report that they've at one time been harassed or subjected to some form of sexual harassment. There are almost 1,000 honor killings reported in Pakistan, and those are only the cases that are reported. There is so much more. So the position of the Muslim woman in 2015 is extremely dire.
You say, so many people, they say Islam is a religion of peace, and then they say that the ISIS and others, there's just an aberrant group of Islamists. And in your book, you talk about jihadis, and you talk about the culture of death, and you talk about the fact that it comes directly from the Quran, the Hadith, and other writings having to do with Muhammad himself. Could you explain what you're talking about?
Well, I want to start by saying Islam can become a religion of peace once it's reformed, but Islam today, unreformed in its pure form, it's not a religion of peace. I describe in the book 3 sets of Muslims. One set of Muslims who are oriented toward Medina when the Prophet emigrated from Mecca, and he engaged in war. And he, doled out war booty. He beheaded people himself. And so in Medina, there was a period that looked pretty much like what we are seeing now the Islamic State do in Iraq and Syria. But before that, early on in the first 10 years, he was preaching peace and love and, charity, and that was more spiritual, maybe what we would describe as a religion today. And I think that the majority of Muslims are Mecca-oriented, but there is a minority, a disturbing minority, an increasing minority that is using the example of the Prophet Muhammad to carry out undescribable atrocities against women, against Christians, against Yazidis, other religious minorities, against gay people, and it's never ending. Anti-Semitism is back in Europe in a way we haven't seen since 1945, and that is because of the presence of radical Islam there. And the question today is, how do we deal with this? If you look at the life of Muhammad and you try to emulate him and do exactly the same things he did back in the 7th century, then you're going to get what we see now, and it's called the Islamic State. And it's not only the Islamic State. Brunei has just reintroduced Sharia law. Saudi Arabia is run under that law that Muhammad introduced. There are beheadings in Saudi Arabia that take place, pretty much on a daily basis and becoming more frequent. People are hung in Iran, and all of these atrocities, again, justified in the name of Muhammad.
Let me ask you about the jihad thing. You know, we're told here by the so-called moderate Muslims that jihad is merely a struggle of the soul. You find it not to be the case. What is jihad and what you've experienced?
Jihad is holy war. It's a declaration of holy war on infidels. It's to invite people who are not Muslim to the religion, and if they refuse, to take the sword or use violence and make them an offer, convert, pay a discriminatory tax if you are Christian or Jew, or die. And we see this applied today by this so-called caliphate in Iraq and in Syria. That is jihad. And when moderate Muslims or so-called moderate Muslims say it means jihad means something else, I just want to tell them denial is not a strategy. The more Muslims deny that there's something inherently wrong with Islam that needs to change, the longer the suffering continues.
What about Iran? We're negotiating Iran, and the leader of Iran just said, you know, death to America, and here we're trying to make a deal with them. Do you think you can deal with these people?
The Iranian regime, as opposed to the Iranian people, and we really must see this separately. I think that the Iranian people are much closer to accepting the US and the existence of the State of Israel and just want to get on with their lives. But the Islamic Republic, which is this regime, they have promised over and over again death to Israel, death to America. They're in the process of developing a nuclear bomb, and they've made their ambitions very, very clear. They want to eliminate the State of Israel, and I think that it is naive to not take them at their word and think, you know, they've been ambitiously working to this end for the last 34 years, and suddenly they're going to change their minds because we tell them to. I think it would be very naive and trusting of us if we believe the mullahs.